Hey, hon, welcome to the Prospector Podcast, a UTEP production made for the students by the students. My name is Adam Regalado, your host and multimedia editor of the Prospector. Welcome back to another episode. This week's titled Is There Ever a Right Time? We're going to be discussing ageism and the pressures of being successful at a young age. To help discuss these topics with me, representatives from the Student Engagement Leadership Center and a fellow student from UTEP. If you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves before we start.
Ladies first.
I'm Adriana Viegas. I am a student organizations coordinator and I work in the Student Engagement and Leadership Center.
Hello, my name is Anthony Vincent. I am the coordinator of fraternity and sorority life in the Student Engagement and Leadership Center.
Miles Cooper, I'm the director of the Student Engagement and Leadership Center.
My name is Aaron Garcia. I am a senior. My major is multimedia journalism.
Alrighty, perfect. And before we go into this topic, I don't know if we want to go around and say our ages just for the sake of the episode.
Okay.
I'm 19 years old. Aaron?
I'm 24. Almost, sorry.
I'm 24.
I am 27.
I'll be 34 on Monday, 33 right now.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so before we get into the topic, this is our latest edition of the Prospector. I hope all of you have read it. And we're just gonna, throughout the episode, we're gonna be talking about a little bit of the stories that we published, just to make sure that you guys are updated on what the Prospector is writing about. And so first I'm just gonna start on our story called Puff Puff Pass on Vaping by Sofia Sierra, talking about the rise in high school students and even middle school students using vapes in school and how that's affecting their health really, really badly. And a lot of students in schools are getting in trouble and getting caught constantly because of the use of vapes. And sometimes they're not only nicotine products, they are using THC products. And it's just a bit easier and accessible to them now because there's a lot of people in El Paso, well, everywhere that are selling them, even in schools. And there's smoke shops that are not IDing underage kids. So it's just a lot more accessible now. It's pretty crazy. Alrighty, let's go ahead and start our conversation. So first I want to ask you guys, what are your opinions on ageism? What is ageism to you? And why do you think there's a stigma around aging? Who wants to go first?
I'm more than happy to kind of chime in first. I think the big thing, and this is just me from my own kind of personal experiences, my family always had the mindset of like do better than I did type of deal, and so based on some of their experiences, there was always a consistent push to either perform at a higher level or to it was like I had B's when I was your age in school, and so my expectation is that you're getting all of the A's, right, and me just as a student. I was kind of having to like learn things and process a whole new world kind of at my own pace and balance the academic aspect with the social development aspect of just life. And so I think there was naturally that pressure to perform at a higher level and to be involved in all the things and set myself up, I guess, for lack of a better term, to be quote unquote better than what my parents were doing or performing or what they saw in others.
I think I've seen it displayed of naturally, especially I think in student affairs, you see a lot of the entry-level positions are taken up by people who are either fresh out of grad school or have just graduated, and the older you get or the higher up those positions are. So it's kind of been like equated that the older you get, the more experienced you are, which naturally it does happen that way. But sometimes it is also a little detrimental to those who at a younger age are able to get the same amount of experience, the qualifications to be at those that are higher than them, but might be passed off because maybe they're not as old as them or seen as experienced enough to take those jobs.
Do you see the opposite by any chance? Like people who are fresh out of high school or college getting those pretty big jobs that usually would stereotypically go to people who are much older because of experience?
I think I can speak on this one. Just because of when I graduated college, I went into a field that was predominantly dominated by older citizens, I guess you could say. And so me going into that field, I worked in the WNBA right out of college, so I went straight into coaching. And all the assistant coaches were 40s, 50s. And so coming out as a 24-year-old at a college, I was seen as, oh, you don't have enough experience to get to this level. You shouldn't be at this level. Yeah, you need to go through the proper steps. And so I think ageism activates both ways in terms of not just older peoples in society, but also younger, where they think that just because you're younger, you don't have enough experience or enough knowledge to be successful. When the opposite happens as well. For older people, they're like, you're not able to adapt quick enough to be successful going forward. And so personally, I think that you can be successful at any age. I think at 19, 18 years old, you see multimillionaires now, especially that are 19 years old, because they found another revenue that they can access from a younger age than we could before.
Yeah, when you say that, the first thing I think of, and I think I was just talking to you outside while we were waiting, is, well, first I want to say that pressure of when younger people come in, do you think that has to do with anything? And older people may be saying that they don't have an experience, or do you think that's why when people reach a certain age, when the younger people who joined a company or an organization reaches a certain age, they want to push out the people who were there before them, not out of spite, but just kind of like, okay, well, now it's my time?
I think it's fear. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're good. I'm still thinking on my thoughts, yeah.
I was gonna say, especially here, coming in here where you have a community that's older, like El Paso is just an older community itself, right? And so you get people that work specifically here at UTEP that may be fearful of the next generation coming in because, one, they are adapting faster. Like, that's just generations. They learn faster, they adapt to technology faster, they want to make significant changes, activism, whatever the case may be. So when they're put into the workforce, all that comes with them. And so older generations don't adapt as fast as that from what I've seen. And so I think it's just more fear of just being pushed out than anything else.
Do you have anything to add?
I was kind of going to add on the young people going into the real world in a sense. I feel like a lot of it comes from whether it's from familial influence or friend influence or self-imposed, this idea that you have to be the best at all times. Like, you have to grow up faster than everyone. Because you look around you all the time and you see people who are like, oh my gosh, how are you doing that? You're doing so much. And you feel like you're just kind of sitting there in their shadow. And whether or not that's real or not, it is a real feeling, that pressure of I need to be the best as fast as possible.
Right.
I mean, just to tie it in personally, I'm supposed to graduate in December. You know, I turn 20 next month, and
Good for you.
and it's just it's totally a familial thing that it's just that constant keep going, you can't stop. So I'm doing this and school, and I have a job, another job outside of UTEP, and it's constant you have to grow up, you have to be older, because the world isn't stopping, so you can't either.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys kind of see that in a way, because I feel that pressure, but I also see so many other students, and I see so many other people my age who constantly feel like that too. And it's just, like you said, I feel like there's, overall when talking about age and thinking about your age, there's just a constant fear of, am I doing enough at this age? Should I be doing this at another age?
Yeah.
And then, of course, other people are going to have your opinions on what you should actually be doing at a certain age.
Right.
And so it's just that constant, fear and rejection and just so many thoughts going on.
Yeah, I honestly think there's so much, I guess, room to just compare what it is that I'm doing to the next person. And, there's such a large, social media influence because a lot of times on our social media platforms, we only put out the success, right? We only put out the positivity that's kind of happening, right? But not like, I guess maybe not showing the work that goes behind it, or how much time on the front end, you know, an individual had to put in to be able to get to that kind of position where they're at. And so I think on top of all of like the family, the self-imposed, the friends that could potentially pressure somebody, I think the mediums in which we're utilizing to just connect with the world can also provide some of those additional, I guess, pressures, so to speak, to achieve at that next level, and can sometimes make an individual like feel like maybe I'm not moving quickly enough, or I'm not pushing myself hard enough, when, you know, in reality, we can't compare ourselves to a platform where people are very intentional with what they're putting out, and the day-to-day things that are kind of happening in someone's life, or the behind-the-scenes work is not, I guess, readily kind of being shown, I guess is how I would put that. But I guess just to kind of wrap all of that up, it's we do live in a world where comparison is very easy, and so, you know, it can cause a lot of that pressure for us to have to do better, to want to push to that next level or do better.
Mm-hmm. Do you think a lot of that is coming from institutions like schools, or do you think it's more family-based?
Well, I do think schools enable it, just with, like, if you think about it, when you have like fast track into master programs, so like a portion of your time doing your undergrad, you're already working towards also completing your master's. So it's kind of, I mean, society's pushing that because it's more favorable. You're going to be able to graduate with 2 degrees at a much younger age than someone who finishes 1 degree first and then immediately works on the other. And it's not a bad thing, you know, it's a choice to enroll in those things, but I think universities make it possible to keep that idea going.
And just to touch on that, I mean, I'm not insinuating anything when I say this, right? But because I don't want to talk like, I don't want to deep dive into like politics right now. But you know how like in politics they say like, oh, we need the younger people in, let's get the older people out. They don't know what they're talking about anymore. They're very experienced, but they're just not benefiting us anymore. Do you think that schools are kind of helping this enabling of, let's get the younger generation in faster because we need them in?
Definitely. So, there are a lot of kids who have an opportunity when they're growing up to skip a grade level, or say do the early college thing, and those things are great. But that also feeds into the whole growing, like you need to grow up faster type thing. Like you see like a 19-year-old like you in college who's going to graduate before they turn 21, and it's kind of like for someone like me who's been here for 6 years and is going to graduate at the same time as you, it's definitely one of those things where it's like, I feel like a lot of kids are missing parts of their childhood because they're moving too fast. Skip a grade level, that's a social development hindrance. Go to college at 16. That just doesn't feel like it's healthy, you know? And then they go off into the workforce at 20.
Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, I think universally they're just trying to push people out. And how they're how they're appealing to them is saying you can earn more money faster, right? You're going to earn your money at 20 rather than 22, 23. You're going to be able to collect money faster. And that's kind of the push. Hey, like do early college so you can graduate faster, you can get in the workforce faster. Then you get more people in the workforce. Mm-hmm. And I think I agree with you 110% that forcing that narrative hinders them in the end, because you're not really slowing down life and really enjoying every parts of college that you can. Like we had a student that came to a leadership event a couple days ago, late last week, where she did early college. She should be a freshman, she's a junior. And she's like, I've never been involved on campus. Doesn't know where to go on campus. She's a first-gen student, so double, right? So she has no direction from the beginning, from when you get here. She has no direction when she gets here because she's like, I'm really young to be here. And so she's still trying to figure that part out. But you're already halfway done. So I feel like I 100% agree with you, whereas if they go through the proper steps, and yeah, they want to do early college like yourself, but really enjoy college that way, that's fine. But at the same time, it also could regress them a little bit when they get into the real world.
Yeah, and I think another thing that I also kind of think about is the fact that, I mean, we were off of college campuses doing a lot of life from, you know, from the comfort of our own homes for a while. And so I guess to specifically tie in some of the work that I do, I work in fraternity and sorority life, as I kind of mentioned at the beginning. And so a lot of the work that my students do are social interactions with other students, and making connections and building friendships. And they didn't exactly have the opportunity to be able to engage in those spaces in a way that was familiar to them. And so I had a lot of students when we came back to campus, or I won't say a lot, but maybe a handful of the students that I interact with on a regular basis that were very much like, I don't know how to start a conversation with someone. I don't know how to like approach an individual and just make a connection. And so amidst us like returning to campus, I saw some of kind of those aspects as well. So just in regards to the overall like timeline of how we're developing, especially for students potentially nowadays, there was, you know, if they had an early college experience, right, and then they're potentially on some sort of fast track program, and then they have a large span of their collegiate career where they're not on campus, not talking to people, not being able to make connections outside of a screen, you know, it could potentially like cause issues in their overall like social development. I think one thing that I was thinking of a little earlier was I see the kind of academic route and the social route kind of as two roads that run alongside one another, and their process of how you kind of work through them. You could see them as two separate things, but at the end of the day, there's like the solid kind of the dotted line kind of in between those, and in my personal opinion, we have to be able to kind of navigate both sides of this highway of life. What's that song? Rascal Flatts? Is it Rascal Flatts? Life is a highway. Yeah. Right. And so I think about that in the sense of like our education is one thing, but also our social development is another. And how are we really like navigating both sides of that highway?
I want to continue this conversation, and the next thing I kind of want to be talking about is again, with going along with that the pressures, just our general thoughts on taking your time, that it's okay to take your time. But before we go into that, I'm going to take a small little break to talk about our Prospector newspaper. Hope everybody read it. Hope you guys read it.
We do.
Awesome. So amazing. Alrighty. So we're going to go into arts and culture. I don't know if you guys saw these amazing photos of the fashion show Hex by Lex. We just want to give her a quick shout out. The story was written by our audience engagement editor, Marco Hinojosa, and just talking about this wonderful, beautiful, so extremely talented fashion designer, Hex by Lex. Go ahead and follow her on Instagram. Just the story about how she was inspired, how her whole entire process of everything, and how her show came to be. Go ahead and check that out on Instagram. We posted a few photos on the Prospector Instagram, and you can go ahead and read the story on theprospector.com.
Hey hun, we're sorry to interrupt the podcast, but the Prospector has to inform you that the UTEP Career Center will be holding a Minor Manners Mastering Dining Etiquette event happening on Thursday, March 7th in the UTEP Union. Registration fee is $30 and you can register and handshake. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
I wanted to answer your question at the same time of is there really ever a right time? I think there is. I think there is always a right time for anything, but we just never know when it is. And so to kind of bring some of my personal life into this scenario. So outside of my work in the Student Engagement and Leadership Center, I'm also the director of a dance company. And so this responsibility was one that in my mind I wasn't planning on taking on for another 2-3 years. So that way, you know, myself as a dancer, I can build myself up more. I guess, and get the quote unquote like internships and things like that, right? But due to some circumstances with my my current director, well, my former director, he had to leave that experience and wound up kind of passing that along to myself and my dance partner, and so it was an experience that really kind of like took us by storm. But what we realized is that we in a sense don't know maybe everything, right? But we have the vision and the drive to try and figure it out. And so I think when it comes to the right time for anything, it's for me, it's never exactly like when you expect it. But when you kind of look back on what you have experienced, there's a sense of, I guess, preparedness that comes in the sense of like, I did things, I stressed out for certain things, so that way when this opportunity came up, maybe I didn't feel like I was ready for it, but I was. And so I loved that question because like it applies to me so directly, like in this very moment. And so I thought that was super cool.
I think everyone has their own right time. I don't think there's like a certain time frame of, I mean, granted, most of us graduate high school at the same time. But I think from that point forward, it's on you, whatever's going to work for you. Some people, take a little bit longer to finish their degree, other things that are taking up their time that just slow the process down. You may take a break between one degree to the next because you want to do something in the middle that's worth it for you. And again, tying it all back to society, I think that's where it's hurtful, when you get to compare yourself to someone who did it on the quote-unquote right time or the right path of doing everything in order. I think it's whatever feels right for you, whatever's going to be better for you in the long run, I think is what matters the most. And again, it's harder said than done because it's so easy to compare, to see someone that's your age doing X, Y, and Z that's getting them so much money in this way. I think whatever works for you is ultimately what matters, and it doesn't really matter what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, it's never too late. And I feel like, especially now, I think one of you had mentioned social media earlier, and we are seeing a lot of young people who are supposed like millionaires just because of social media, and I feel like that, and I hear people talking about that almost every day, where it's just like, wow, like what, they're 16 and they're like going to the Grammys and they're doing all of these things, and it's just like, wow, like what am I doing? Like I'm so far behind, it seems, and I'm not saying like let's hate on them. It's just like, I mean, like
I do a little bit. I'm not even gonna lie with you. I do a little bit.
No, you know what? Me too. I mean, it depends. It depends on the person, because sometimes I'm just like, you really, like the things that you do like on social media can be so rude, or like, I mean, depending on that, But I will say there's a few people who I'm just like, so happy for you.
I can do that. I can do that.
I think about my biggest one is Emma Chamberlain. I grew up watching her, and I mean, she just made videos on YouTube. I was like, I had a camera when I was her age. I lived a normal life just like her. But here she is doing Vogue. She goes to be a like interview press now. That's
at the Met Gala. She's like the main person for Vogue during Met Gala interviews. And I'm just like, I liked coffee when I was 16. Like,
Yep.
Yeah, me too. Like, I was drinking cold brew every day too. Like, I had a camera. Like, darn it. Like, but I guess it just.
Wasn't your
I don't
path.
know.
I was gonna say they were there at the right time.
Yeah.
And they did the right thing at the right time.
They got lucky too. A lot of luck.
At their right time.
Yeah,
Not the
that's a good
right
one.
time,
Their
their
right
right
time.
time.
You're so right. Alrighty. Well, just.
Can I add one more thing to that
Yes,
before we
yes, of
transition? So I'd personally say, if you can, take the break. If you need a break, take the break. I was burned out for like the past 2 years, and I made a decision early in the semester that I was going to give myself a break. And so I cut my classes in half, and I'm working on the side, and it's good. It's good. I feel like growing up, at like every corner, it seems like there's a deadline. Like someone's telling you, this is going to happen at this time, and this is going to happen at this time. And in high school, like, that's fine. Then you get to college, and you still have that feeling. And it's like, back to what we were saying, oh my gosh, he's graduating, and I've been here for however long. And it's like, there is no deadline. There really is no deadline at all. If take care of yourself, you know?
That's good for you, because that's tough.
It's
Like, that is tough.
Hey, hun. Sorry to interrupt this wonderful conversation on the Prospector Podcast. My name is Gael Laraiza, the layout editor here at the Prospector. If you are a full-time UTEP student, work study eligible, and looking for an on-campus job, the UTEP Food Pantry is currently hiring. For more information, visit utep.edu/foodpantry. Now back to the conversation.
So let's talk about that age. What would you guys say? I personally, I mean, when I say elderly, I'm kind of thinking, because I mean, all the elderly people in my life, they're way above 70, you know, and so because I see people who are 50 and 60 who are more than capable, and you know, they're still moving, even though there's this stigma of just like, oh wow, you're 50, like that's crazy, and I'm just like, no, like look at them, they're doing so much, like. It's just, I mean, I don't want to talk about like health or anything, you know, but it's just like, of course that has to do with a lot, right? But, yeah, I would say 70.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're clear on it. Because, I mean, I don't want to offend anyone in being like, hey, like 55 is, like, I just don't, personally, I don't think 55 or anything like that. I agree with you, like 70 could be seen. Like my mom just turned 70. Or yeah, she just turned 70, and like she's still running around everywhere. Like she's a chef, so she still cooks and everything like that. And the only thing I have to feel like I have to baby her on is like technology, which I feel like we all have to go through that situation of like, here's the new phone, like here's how you work it, type of thing. Yeah. But and I think that's just part of learning, like we talked about earlier about just learning curve. And I think that's the stigma, is the being able to adapt to new things like that. What's funny is I think both of us look at sometimes like gaming YouTube, and there's a guy that's there now, he's like 72 years old, like an army vet. Have you seen him?
I think I know the sniper.
Yeah, the sniper.
Oh, he's good.
So he's great.
He's good.
And he's just sitting there, and he's a streamer, and watch him be like a multimillionaire just because of these videos, but he adapted. Yeah. And you sometimes get elderly that do not feel they need to or want to adapt. And this guy's having fun just doing YouTube videos. Yeah. And he sits there and plays video games all day, and he's now going to be like a legend coming out of this watch.
He's better than most people, like, in general, so.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's the ability to adapt to new circumstances. And I think that's where the babying comes in that you mentioned earlier. Yeah. Is if they can adapt by themselves or just even be shown and then they can take it from there, I feel like that's what they're going to do. Like, I always feel like I feel old sitting with you guys right now, but also in our office, like I'm one of the oldest. And so being able to adapt to technology is what's going to keep me to be able to have conversations with my staff. If I don't adapt, they're going to be like, he's old, you can't take him, he doesn't know how to turn on his computer. You know what I mean? And so we don't want that conversation, because they're going to sit there and lose respect for me at that point. So I feel like the ability for the elderly to adapt in situations leads them. Like my grandma went back to school to get her doctorate at like 55, 58, just because she's on her bucket list and she wanted to go back.
I love that. Right?
And so it's never, like, we keep saying it, we keep hammering it home of just, it's never too late, it's never a right time, it's your time. And so adaptability always comes back. It's really big in my life. And so I feel like for them, for the elderly at that point, is just, can they adapt, can they not? Or do they choose to or choose not to? I think that's where it comes in for me.
Now, when you say that, oh, go ahead.
No.
I
was just like,
oh, sorry. Like, oh, okay, I get changed. Yeah. I think that when you say exactly that, if they choose to adapt to or not, and I feel like when we talk about social media, and I think we've all seen those like funny videos or like of people who are older trying to like don't know how to text, you know. It's like, oh, texting my mom, and it's like super funny, you know, because it's just like, oh, she doesn't know how to text, or like, oh, she doesn't know how to answer a FaceTime, or there's that thing called like the millennial pause in videos. I don't know if you guys have seen those kinds of videos going around, but I think that when we talk about ageism and people kind of like not hating, but just for lack of a better word, kind of just disagreeing with people who are older and kind of just bashing on older generations, is when we talk about politics and like trying to, I mean, just to put it as an example, the LGBTQ community, right? I'm just gonna use that because I am part of the community. But anyways, sorry, I say that I said that last episode. It was funny. People were laughing about it, so I was just like, I'll say it again. But anyways, like, oh, like, why can't they understand? I personally, I don't like the when people from the community or from my generation say, oh, but they've been like alive this long, so why they were there when all of this change was happening, so why didn't they change with it? And so it's just kind of like a, I don't know, did they just choose their values and just kept with it, or were they ignorant and they didn't want to listen, or are we not teaching them properly and we're just, because they disagree with us, it's like, oh, well, now we're just going to be against you too, you know? But I just, personally, I always think we just educate, you know, and if it sticks, then it does. And if they continue to disagree with you, they're going to disagree with you, and that's perfectly okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think, in my personal opinion, conversation is one of, like, the greatest ways to educate individuals, right? And I've seen personally how the way that you pose a conversation can determine someone's level of responsiveness to what it is that an individual is delivering. And so I also think it's both sides of the table on any given issue have to be willing to, like, hear the other side out, right? We can always have our different viewpoints on how we see the world and how things should kind of adjust, or how things should be moving. But I think we see real change when people are actually, like, able and willing to come around the table and have conversation. And so I would say that's kind of one of the big things for me when it comes to, like, how are we creating change, or how are we educating individuals on the next steps that we can take, right? I go back to the kind of you know, how in politics nowadays there are a lot of older individuals that are kind of holding these higher up leadership positions. I think it's about all age ranges and groups coming around the table and understanding, like, where the different viewpoints of our communities, like, where they are, and being able to, at the end of the day, we're all human, right? So I've always had the mindset, like, we 100% cannot make everyone happy, but we can always adjust something slightly to benefit to help or assist the majority, and then have it snowball into something that's larger and more impactful for a wider variety. But I think it all starts with bringing people around and having conversation where both sides are willing to hear and be educated, and be challenged on any new direction that our world or our line of work or our community should go.
Anybody want to add to that? Oh.
I think just throughout, it's a willingness, but on both sides. So, like, I think we see, like, the older generations need to be willing and flexible to being open to learning. But then it goes to, like, the younger generation of being, you know, wanting to put the work in, because I think another piece to this is, like, a lot of people are now, well, I want to earn the most amount of money while doing the least amount of work. And I think that's especially true of, like, people who are younger, but they have to be, again, willing to put the work in, willing to be dedicated to what they do. And again, it's like a give and take on both sides. They have to find that common ground of flexibility on their end, but also the dedication on them.
Yeah, I mean, I would add to it, I would say patience. I think that's from both ends of the age spectrum. Like, if you want someone to really have that conversation and have understanding, or at least awareness, if the bare minimum is awareness, then I feel like you have to be patient with teaching them and having that conversation, because it's not going to grasp right away, and you're not going to get everything you want right away. It's going to be continuous conversation and putting the work in for people to really understand and be aware of what's going on, or at least what you want them to be aware of what's going on.
I see older generations kind of telling younger people like slow down, and younger generations telling the older ones to like let's hurry up,
Speed it up.
like let's speed it up, let's like get a grasp on this, you know. And it's not like, and that's what I disagree with. It's just like, oh, let's speed it up, like get a grasp on it a lot faster. I'm just like, no, because if you disagreed with it, you would take your time too to try to grasp with what they're saying and agree with them.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of people do make it an age thing, where it's just like, oh, these older generations just it can't click in their mind, or they're just so ignorant because of the way they were raised. And I mean, yeah, like familial values and religious values have a lot to do, but there's people who are younger, who are in the much younger generations, who are disagreeing with half of what somebody can be saying,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
it doesn't have to do with age at all.
And I think that's a great point you made about generalization, is that you have younger generations that are saying, hey, the older generation in completion are all thinking this way. And that's not true.
That's
I mean, you have advocates that are older that really do understand, that went through, like, what is it, fight for your right, love is power type of situations in earlier generations, where they're like, we fought for these rights, we did these things, and we understand where you're coming from. Yeah, there are some people that don't agree and don't understand and are like, you know what, I grew up this way and that's what it is, and that machismo comes out all the time. But at the same time, you have people that are like, I'm behind you, I understand, and as long as you're happy, I'm happy type, like parenting type of situations. I've had friends that came out to their parents and were met with loving embrace. I've had friends that came out to their parents and they don't talk to their parents anymore. So I don't think it's a generalization. I don't think it's right to have the generalization to say like all of them are thinking this way.
No, yeah, thank you so much. So I just wanted to go, I guess, into final thoughts with everything that we've been talking about, kind of going around. If there's anything you guys just want to say, we can take time. I'll go ahead and edit it, if anything. If you guys just want to think of something that you guys want to say that just relates to the subject, any advice or anything like that. Whoever wants to go first.
There is beauty in your best, and it doesn't have to be the best.
That's poetic.
Can we stop there?
And cut. Thank you.
How did you last?
Wow. That's tough to follow.
Yeah.
Just follow up with a bunch of cliches. Like,
Right.
just run your own race. But it's true. I will say, as cliche as it is, you just got to do what's going to be best for your life. And I think what also helps is just thinking about, like, the career path that you're going to take. Every path, every career is so different. Every job is even different depending on what you're aspiring to do. So it's not fair if you're in one division, let's say you're in education, and you look at someone who's in the medical field, or vice versa. One has more education usually and a lot more time spent. And so I think just being realistic with yourself too, to kind of analyze everything that you're dealing with and not worry about what everyone else is dealing with.
That's good.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm going to say that to be involved. I mean, I know most of the viewers are going to be students on campus. Is don't be afraid to get out there and be involved. We have student organizations on campus. We have all these things on campus. I'm not trying to do a shameless plug. I truly believe in this.
But you had your time and you took it.
I of course.
And
But
I
I'm just
like
saying,
it.
like, honestly, like, and speaking from personal experience, when I was in college, I had 2 on-campus jobs and an internship with Nike. Like, that was literally what I did. And, like, I wanted to make sure that I was involved at all times to be me up for life outside of school. So, I mean, I had my internship all 4 years. I had these 2 jobs all 4 years. And so that's what I'm saying. If you get on campus, get involved on campus, it's not just what's going to help you now. It's going to help you in the future, because you're going to network with people that you may not see inside your degree plan. Like, you may see people outside of class. You're just like, you know what? Like, you have a great idea. I can help you with that idea, or vice versa. Let's collaborate. You know what I mean? Things like that. That's how sparks happen. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they don't happen inside the classroom with people you just see on Tuesdays and Thursdays or Mondays and Wednesdays. They happen outside. And so that's what I'm saying is get involved, step outside your comfort zone, because that's how you can be successful.
I mean, I think everything that you all said was absolute fire. So I think the way that I'm going to kind of finish off is picks up a Go Miners.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, just from your host and multimedia editor, Adam, I am just gonna say, let's just remember to be kind to ourselves, and no matter what pace, no matter what path you're taking, it's okay. I completely agreed with what you said. Let's to be involved, and I mean, yes, on campus, and just if you have a passion and you're serious about it, it doesn't matter how long it takes for you to start doing it, as long as you do, and as long as you keep those goals in your mind, you know, but just never think short of yourself, never think that you're not going to be good enough to the point where you just never do it, because you don't know if you don't try, and it's never too late. It's never too late.
Nice.
Alrighty, well, that's all the time that we have today. I just want to say a very special thank you to all my beautiful guests from the Student Engagement Leadership Center, and to Aaron. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Prospector Podcast, and we will see you next week for our Prospector Podcast Valentine's Day special.
Ooh.
I hope you guys have a great, amazing day. Alrighty.